What's happening, fam? L.A.R movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, and Create Space. A link will be in the description box below as usual. This video is entitled Black Women in the Workforce Conversation. So, like I was saying in the video previously, me and my best friend were talking about actually history of the workforce, and then it came to black women in the workforce, and then we just spawned into a conversation about sex symbols. But I'm gonna tell y'all how the conversation went when it came to black women in the workforce, and I'm gonna expound on what we didn't get a chance to talk about. Well, we were talking about history, and I told her, I said, well, originally affirmative action was supposed to be something to get black men back into the workforce working, because historically, say around that Ellis Island time when people were migrating here, black men had all the skills, fresh out of slavery, Reconstruction, all that other stuff. Thus, the Jim Crow part, well, we had taught a lot of quote unquote immigrants of all races, nationalities, religions, whatever, how to build and create in this country after slavery and Reconstruction, and those people band together and unionize to make sure us black men didn't get jobs. So that was really the basis, one of the major bases for affirmative action, which included everybody else, so we don't benefit from it, right? And I said, well, and she didn't know, which I don't understand that, but she didn't know that the biggest benefactor of affirmative action to this day is white women. And she was like, well, we wanted to be in the workforce and we were held out too. And I was like, well, explain to me by who? And she was like, well, first, black men. And I was like, okay. She felt like black men stopped black women from getting jobs. I'm guessing, Jim Crow era. Because that was about the time frame we were talking at the time. And I said, well, here's the thing. If you historically can believe that black men held black women from getting jobs, I said, what about, can the argument be made that black men didn't want black women working in America because if they had to be the providers for the family, they would want their women at home where they were safe, because working for non-black people in America, if you work for white men, you could get raped and nobody would say a word, and that was cool. And if you work for white women, you'll get assaulted and maybe raped if the husband gets home in time and nobody would say a word. Did you ever think that these guys didn't want these women to work to protect them? And she was like, yeah, that's a valid point. So, but people still held us back. And I said, well, what about the idea that if you wanted to work that bad, I was like, well, let's make this half and half then. For the women who didn't want to work and who were forced to work and they got violated, I think those women would have a valid gripe with brothers about not being protected and provided for. And she was like, yeah. I said, now for the other women who were being provided for and were being protected, who ran into the workforce anyways and got violated, how can you blame black men for that? And at that point, she was like, I said, see, she couldn't blame us for that. So I was like, I think as a man, and the animosity with our women, with being women in the workforce, those two things are combined as one thing, and it's not ever taken into consideration that some of these ladies willingly walked into a hostile environment because they just wanted whatever it is that they wanted. So it was difficult. Now, which leads to something else I saw in a video, like yesterday, I was watching videos. Now there's a lot of women in the workforce because I got to the point where I talked about, even when it comes to affirmative action, our women know, as I spoke about in the video yesterday, they're technically considered a double minority, so they'll get hired before us. They don't think anything's wrong with that because they benefit from that. And nobody ever speaks up and say, "Hey, that's not cool to do to your men if you in on this little game too." So at the end of the day, it's a problem. And what winds up happening is nobody talks about these important things as far as the workforce is concerned. Because one of the major problems that was brought up even in the video I was watching was they say women are head of household because they're increasingly in the workforce. So somewhere between, for the 100% of women that are head of household, they were saying something like 64% of them make under $23,000 a year, and the reason they can claim head of household is because of governmental assistance. So that number is inflated. It's nice to on paper to say that these women in the workforce becoming being more independent, but the majority of them aren't taking care of themselves. So, and unfortunately, black women get blamed for that because y'all, just like we're the scapegoat for men, y'all the scapegoat for women. So now, like, okay, so what are you getting out of the workforce? Literally, like, what are you getting out of the workforce? Because if you wanted to be there so bad, and you got half feeling like we kept you out of it, and we got the other half that kept you out of it for real to protect you, but you went anyway and you got violated, it's because you wanted it so bad. I don't think men have anything to do with that. But fast forwarding to the current situation, the need for marriage can be looked at as a supplemental income and a subsidy because you can't be the head of household on your own. The need for alimony, child support, and government assistance can be looked at as a supplement because, instead of being in relationships with your men, while you're in the workforce, you're in relationships with the government because you can't afford to be an adult in the workforce. And the irony of that is this, for the ladies, for the sisters in the workforce, we never talk about all of the help modern day women in the workforce get. The dates that you've been on and the free meals, that's help. The men who've come and helped you fix things in your home and fix your car, that's help. The family who bands together and takes care of your kid, even though you're getting child support, but you don't use that money to help take care of the kid, so you use it for whatever you use it for, and you really don't pay them. That's help. Women who get divorce settlements and even split up people's like retirement income or alimony and consider themselves head of household, that's help. It's not like we're talking about people who are actually out here fending for themselves. And why I say that, because it's unfair to the women that I know that are actual breadwinners, where their family actually depends on them to bring home the bacon. They have no help. But the vast majority of female breadwinners aren't breadwinners. they're just people who make a certain amount of money. They 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 have more. They can't afford. They're a head of household who can't afford the household, and some don't. Even with all the help, some need extra jobs because of whatever reason. Um, and to me, it's mismanagement of money because if you can get government assistance, tax breaks, um, child support, alimony, help, and gifts every year, and you're still financially not in a good place. We were talking that the workforce isn't really helping these women. Plus, with all of their outgoing expenses, like men don't spend, men don't spend. If you met a man who spent the amount of money every month that women spend on hair and nails, you would think he's crazy. If he's the head of household, you have to look. You think he's crazy. The things that women say that they need: purses, shoes, makeup. You would think they're crazy. You know, all of these things for beauty purposes that have no work functionality. That at the end of the day put a dent in the wallet of these quote unquote breadwinners and head of household who enter in the workforce to make money, but they're really just sabotaging their own savings by upkeep of themselves, because that's a part of a female budget that is probably one of the reasons why they need so much help. So my thing about black women in the workforce was, I mean, if you work, you work. That's your nobody do your thing. But when you say, for the women who are in the workforce and want to be in the workforce, when you say it's not enough, and you need more equality and you want to get paid the same, I believe in equal pay for equal work. But I also believe if you get equal pay for equal work, you should go Dutch too. Like, you can't get all the benefits of everything, and also have guys in the workforce helping you do your job when you're not moving at the pace that these other coworkers who may be male or go-getter females are moving, because you need to be catered to. You know what I'm saying? So the black woman in the workforce conversation. We're done.